All right, yesterday, House Judiciary Committee, the Republicans on the committee, sent a letter to the U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland requesting an ethics inquiry and a public report concerning his memo to the FBI and the U.S. attorneys on the perceived, quote, threats against school administrators, board members, teachers, and staff. There are questions now about whether or not the Attorney General violated ethical guidelines, federal guidelines, by jumping into this issue. Joining me now is one of the members of the House Judiciary Committee who signed the letter. He serves on the committee, the Judiciary Committee, as well as the Committee on Homeland Security. He represents the 9th Congressional District of North Carolina. Congressman Dan Bishop. Dan, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Tony. Glad to be with you.
All right, now this is obviously an issue that's gotten a lot of attention because the Attorney General jumping into what should clearly be a issue of local concern. There's a couple of points that you and the other members bring out in this letter. One is that this is an effort to stifle First Amendment protected political speech. Do you think that's what's behind this, that this is designed to silence these parents who are raising alarm over what's happening in public schools?
Tony, I'd say that I can't think of what else it's for. The letter you're describing, Mike Johnson, Louisiana, led a number of Judiciary Committee Republicans on raising specifically the issue of conflict of interest. But earlier, I dashed off a letter and got about 30 members of Congress to join, raising more generally the question about what's going on here, because the Attorney General, in his memorandum that came out 3 business days after a letter from the National Association of School Boards, demanding a federal intervention, and this memorandum describes a spike in threats, intimidation. I forget the third term he used, but the question we asked in the letter that I led is, what is the basis for this? His memorandum is 1 page, doesn't give any details about what he says is the spike in threats or the rise in criminality or criminal conduct. I don't know what he's talking about. What I've seen is moms and dads nationwide at school board meetings raising heck, Tony. They're angry, and there've been some people have been a little bit over the beyond the pale, and there've been a handful of trespassing arrests for people who were disorderly. There've been a total of 3 news reports I could find after some extensive research where somebody struck somebody else, no injuries, and threats. Every threat that I've seen referenced in a news article is a threat of political retaliation, or a threat to maybe come to somebody's house and protest, but there have been no threats of violence. So for the Attorney General to direct the FBI to conduct meetings in every judicial district in the country under the coordination of the United States attorneys with various, whatever leaders they pick, is an extraordinary attack on First Amendment activity. I can't find any other basis for it. We've asked the Attorney General to specify, and he better.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Congressman Bishop. The overreach is stunning here, and I think it is designed to intimidate and to silence parents who are concerned about what's happening in classrooms across this country. Now, I've watched a lot of the footage. I've watched live coverage of some of these school boards that have been a little more contentious. And I want to be very careful here because I don't want to paint every school board member with a broad brush, because I'm grateful, in fact, encouraging parents to run for school boards. But I've seen a lot of arrogance. I've seen a lot of arrogance on behalf of these school boards, basically acting as if toward the parents, what are you doing here? This is our business. We know what to do. We're the professionals. And this only adds to that when you have the Attorney General of the United States launching a federal task force, in part, as you said, pointing to this letter from the National School Boards Association, calling for them to use the Patriot Act, which is designed to go after terrorists. It's outrageous. But I don't want to run out of time before we get to this other point that is raised in this letter that you made reference to that was led by Mike Johnson. And that is that the Attorney General apparently has family that has a financial interest in what is happening, in particular, in several of these schools across the country as it pertains to critical race theory curriculum and anti-racism materials. He's a co-founder of Panorama Education Incorporated. This is problematic.
Oh, absolutely. And Mike Johnson has studied it to its depth. I was pleased to join his letter, but it's a serious thing when you're stepping forward, and particularly with something that's sweeping and out of place, to have a financial interest underlying it. And I've looked at a little bit of the stuff that they sell. They peddle critical race theory junk. It is pernicious. It is pure racism. We've talked about that before, Tony, but that's what this son-in-law of Merrick Garland's does. And if they didn't look into that and figure out that there's a personal interest connected to his family that would be affected, stands to be affected by these protests that they're trying to quell, amazingly, then the Attorney General is going to have a problem.
This is amazing to me that, they deny that even critical race theory is being pushed into our schools. It's not in the curriculum. And here the Attorney General is becoming really the enforcer in many ways for his son-in-law, going out and telling people they cannot expose this. They better not expose it. We're going to launch a task force to scare parents away from the school boards that have pulled back the curtain on what's actually happening in the classroom. This is, typical leftist politics, in my view, corrupt to the core.
I think that's true, Tony, but it really, I think, sets a new low. This is very troubling. And you're talking about, it's not really a task force, it's just a task force. It's a dragnet, a nationwide dragnet, and it's designed to chill First Amendment activity by drawing this association. The School Boards Association used the term some form of domestic terrorism. That's the kind of thing you see in communist China, Tony.
It is. Congressman Bishop, we're out of time. As always, great to talk with you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
You bet.
Folks.